Good morning, gardening friends. Welcome to Tea Time Tuesday. I'm going to give you a tour of the cottage garden. I'm in Wisconsin, Zone 5. This is a new flower blooming this week. It's called, when it was given to me, Carolina Phlox. It is only about 2 foot high and blooms earlier than the summer phlox. So it gives me that pink color in the garden right now. As the daisies are winding down, they probably have a couple weeks yet. I wanted to show you the perilla I talked about. It's an herb, and I scattered the seed a lot in the garden. Now it's going to get about 2.5 feet tall or so, and it loses its color later on. Well, not too bad, especially in shade. But it's a good ground cover filler. Disguises the weeds in the garden and has that burgundy shade. It goes nicely with this Corydalis here. You can see some of the perilla with it, and then the pretty veined Corydalis. The white that is going to start blooming in the garden this week and will take over after the daisies are done is Feverfew, and it's just starting to open. So it's going to give me that white, much needed in the garden. All the phlox, no, not the phlox, the Dame's Rocket will be getting dead-headed. You can see the seed heads here. Dead-headed or cut down or pulled out completely. Like in here, there's too much, so some will get pulled out. Way too much. But it added color when I didn't have that pink color. Now the Carolina Phlox will take over. Spiderwort still going at it, and the ranunculus, or the buttercup, still doing good. The sedum, it's very aggressive, is going to flower now. It's a pretty yellow in this area when the ranunculus is done. Another, whoa, there went my bunny. Another buttercup. That one's just starting also. So a good yellow in the garden. Very aggressive campanula called the clustered bellflower. Pretty color, but whoa, is it aggressive. See it in this Corydalis, which I talked about digging up and getting out, taking out the ranunculus. No, the campanula out of there. Didn't do it yet. The orange hawkweed I showed you last week, but it was a little late because it was later in the day. But it looks pretty with the purple ranunculus. In the 90s here in Wisconsin, that is way too hot for me. Cranesbill. All us perennial people have cranesbill in our garden. And it's nice because you can cut it down to the ground, right down to those stems, right to the ground, and it will come back again. So when it starts looking ratty, it's gone. Great foliage sedum. I don't know the name, maybe somebody can help me out here. But a pretty blue-green with a little burgundy in it. And a dandelion going to seed. Years ago that would never happen. Another white in the garden, besides the feverfew coming up, is Fleabane. And when this is done, the daisies, this Fleabane will bloom for quite a long time because I'll deadhead it. But it adds white in the garden, and it's airy, kind of a see-through plant, you know. Look, you can see the orange poppies in the background through it. Call it a see-through plant. Oh, I see some Knautia starting to bloom. So that gives me color a long, long time. Probably until a frost. If you're really good about deadheading it, it will give you color for a long time. Also, Campanula bellflower. That's the single one. I think all bellflowers are aggressive. But I like the color. Catmint's almost done behind it. And that blue is nice in that spot. The Siberian iris are checking out. All of those seed heads are going to be deadheaded. And we have more of the Fleabane here with the pretty, pretty alliums. They are Globe Master, I think. But look at how dense this allium is. Oh, can you see the honeybee right in there? He's loving it. Quite a few honeybees this year. Then the hawkweed is in here. As is the salvia starting to bloom. I think that's meadow sage. You know, I like the alliums a lot, and so much so that I put up with their yucky foliage. I do try growing stuff around it so it hides it, but it doesn't always work because that foliage is pretty big. Look at this little moss. There's a couple different mosses on this rock. One is very mound-like. Now my moss man, I have a video if you search on the moss garden I went through. And then there's this one here that's more grass-like. Isn't it amazing how it grows, that moss grows right where the hens and chicks are? Dry, dry. Hawkweed and buttercups. Forget-me-nots going to seed. Probably another week and I'll yank them out. But right now, some are dry, some aren't. So I won't yank it out. I want it to spread. Okay, let's see. I think this weed is dock. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I want to know what it is. It's got a very long taproot, long narrow leaves, and they are staggered up the stem. One here, one here. And I will be pulling it real soon because I don't want it all over. Variegated Heliopsis. Keeps this variegation quite nicely. It's very dry in the garden. We've had 80s and 90s for a week, so the leaves are curling, and it's only like 10 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I see one Siberian still blooming there. saying, look at me, I'm the last. But after you deadhead it, it looks pretty. It looks like grass. I see yarrow in the background too is going to be blooming. The oriental poppies are winding down. So now it's hawkweed center stage and buttercups. And valerian's still working at it, showing me its bloom. Pretty good. Oh, look what else is blooming here. Pretty, pretty. This one is in the Maltese cross family. It's a Lycnis. Isn't that a pretty deep, deep orange red? So pretty. And the foliage is pretty, isn't it? Perennial. In the Maltese family. Maltese cross. Whoa, we do have to get to you very soon. Maybe today. Deadheading. Carolina Phlox popping up. A few more oriental poppies. More Carolina Phlox. See, I just repeat through the garden. I just let it jump through the garden. And it makes your eye flow better when you do that, I think, with perennials, than having just one clump of it, and when it's done, you know, like a mass planting, and when it's done, then you have nothing there. So you can see that I like repeating in the garden, and it'll bloom even in partial shade. This sedum here, last week I showed you it blooming, and the week before yellow, but then it turns to this pretty rust color, getting its seed head. So it's pretty for a longer time. Variegation, not much in my garden, but I do have some. Oh, I see some bindweed. We're going to have to get that one out and trim out this pygmy barberry. Prickly, you have to have your gloves on for that one. Lots more meadow sage. Meadow sage is nice in a very compacted soil, hot, dry, as is the ground cover here, snow in the summer. Hot, dry, compacted, because the tractor drives on that quite a bit. Mouse ears, lamb's ear. That's lamb's ear, but it's the short one. I think it's called lamb's, oh, no. Big ears. That's what it's called. Everything blooms so fast in the heat. It's like coming out today to take this. I think, wow, look what's blooming. I didn't expect it so soon, but we've been dry. And this perennial garden is very dry. Still that yellow from the ranunculus. Quite a long bloomer without deadheading. This oriental poppy is Turk and Lewis with a fringe on it. And it's in a lot of shade, especially in the afternoon. So I'm happy that I get blooms on it even. The climbing hydrangea on the arch. Looking pretty. Trumpet vine is getting thicker and thicker on the arch. Soon it will have orange trumpets on it. Whoops, sorry. The lupine real, oh, look here. The milkweed is starting to get its flowers. I've seen swallowtails, tiger type butterfly, but not the monarchs yet, too early. Or at least I haven't seen any yet. Different type of allium. Now you remember about a month ago I told you how small that seed head was. Well, look at it now. Let me back up a little here. Okay. My hand. Okay, my hand with it. It's quite big. Pretty. Different texture than the gladiator that's real dense. Peony still blooming back there. And I believe that's because it gets a lot of shade in this corner. Very fragrant. I'm sure you all have peonies in your garden. So color in a cottage garden for a long period of time. Challenging, but once you get it, oh, it's a lot less work than planting annuals all the time. Those are a new planting of Sum and Substance that I wove through this back border under these pine trees I limbed up. Kind of like a snake. No straight lines here. And then they go over to the side garden because there we have our office and we can view the garden. So I wanted to make this pretty underneath the pine tree. Oh, I think my scarlet runner beans are starting to climb a little here. There they are. Where are you? Oh yeah, there you are. Good, 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 good. I have to cage them because we have bunnies. Or I wouldn't have anything on my trellis. Last week I told you I had burdock back there, a huge burdock. So I cut it down to the ground and my husband said, "It's so pretty, why are you cutting it?" Well, it was going to flower and I didn't want it to seed all over. Long taproot. So I just cut it down, cut the foliage, chop and drop. And it'll add a lot of nutrients to the soil, a lot of minerals. Again, over here some more oriental poppies. And the Dame's Rocket. I'll show you the veggie garden. I'm not running behind too much here. Leaf mulch I had from last year. I just threw it on there because the peppers were really drying out. This bed here, this lasagna method of gardening is only a couple years old, so the soil isn't as good as the gardens down this way. But it's still better than I used to have it without fertilizing. I don't fertilize these gardens. Spinach, carrots, onions, red and white. I think the new white one is called Patterson I tried this year. It's supposed to be good in our region of Wisconsin, Zone 5. The dill, I'm harvesting it now because carrots don't like to have dill around. So I want to get it out of here. So that'll be my first harvest. And carrots will go over here next year. So I'm going to make sure no dill goes to seed over here. So I don't have it over here next year. Tomatoes, boy, when I put them in the ground and using this lasagna method of gardening, layering mulch, they greened up really nicely and quick. peas, oh boy, they're not liking this heat. They're starting to set flower up here. This was my last consecutive planting. I watered the raspberries good because I want the raspberries to be nice and plump. And all I do is I took rope to make fencing to help hold them erect a little more. And I gave up using bird netting on them. We're going to see how much I have to share them with the birds this year. And I do have dandelions up here, so when I pick greens, I want them quick and I don't go down in the bog or under the pines. But down in the bog and under the pines get more shade and moisture. So I think they taste better. Not as bitter. This whole edge will be calendula because my lavender, I died. I killed it, I think. I cut it back way too far because I was sick of how straggly it looked. So instead of being patient and cutting it back nicely, I just whacked it down. Peppers, kale, there's another peas growing up the trellis with the cucumbers. I'm harvesting kale finally. Broccoli's looking good. The cabbage moth I haven't seen around too much. Once I do see it more, then I will be looking at the leaves daily because I don't have a lot of plants, so I can do that. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this sedum's blooming too. A little different type. And so is the sorrel. Oh, that yellow looks like clover, or some people think is clover. Whoops. We eat that. The sorrel. You know, I noticed on YouTube now when I name a plant wrong, I used to go back and edit the right name and put it in the picture frame. They don't let me do that anymore. You guys probably all knew that, but I didn't. Lupine's winding down. Annabelle hydrangea is just getting ready to bloom. And the bridal wreath is blooming. And not as beautiful as some people have it because, whoa, this is a lot of shade down here. And some white campanula. I didn't know I had white, but I do now. Sand cherry. There's that burgundy color I like. Baptisia. Whoa, that bloomed really fast with the heat. It'll set some pretty black pods now, like a pea, sugar snap pea pod on that order in a few weeks. In a month for sure, I'll show you the pods. I let them on because they're pretty. I like that black in the garden. Some aggressive field grass, but it's pretty. Oh, the shade garden. Sheet mulching saves me. Shows off the hostas a little better than having weeds around it. That's a nut tree of some type. It's probably, I'm thinking, a hickory? I have to look it up. I'm not sure. White spiderwort is blooming now too. I try to keep it white in the shade garden, but I see there's blue back there. I like the white in front of the blue angel hostas. White is nice in the shade. angels. Blue angels and blue mammoth are two really nice big blue ones. I think they're the biggest. It'll still be setting its flower. Persicaria, Lance Corporal, and Corydalis. It'll take quite a bit of sun and quite drought tolerant. Columbine. Another one of those trees. We have hickory in the area, and I'm not sure if we have walnut. I don't think so, so I don't think that's a walnut. Hickory, we have elm, ash. I know they have that compound leaf, like, so I have to do my homework. I have not done my homework on that. Or maybe you guys can help me. Little goat's beard going to flower soon. That only gets about 18 inches. The bigger one is back there, starting to set flower in front of the blue angels. Let's see, with the tree, you can see it a little better as the background. It'll add a nice white in the shade, tall and feathery. White will still be in the shade. Brightens up the area. There you go with the white in the garden. White in the garden in the shade. Nice. As are the white-rimmed hostas. Oops. And that is the wild Solomon seal, which the deer must not have been around too much because they like eating that one. Ligularia, the rocket, likes damp places. That'll be a tall, spiky flower. When the sun hits it, it'll wilt because it likes mostly shade. But it perks up because it's in moist water there, moist soil. More of the allium. Amazing how it blooms in the shade. Now these are from seeds, so I don't know if the heads are going to get bigger through the years or not, or they're going to stay small because of the lack of sun. Good foliage of lungwort and the Japanese painted fern. Ligularia Othello. We were just talking about it. This is for you, Bill. You asked if I had ligularias, and I do. This one here has mostly burgundy under the leaf, so when it's cupped you can see that, and then a darker greenish brown on top. It gets a daisy-like yellow flower, where the rocket over in the boggy area there gets a tall spiky flower, yellow. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for coming to Tea Time Tuesday. Few new things blooming this week. Take care, my gardening friends. I am so happy to have you visit my gardens. Really, really. It's nice to have